There is a war with rules. You have studied those rules since you were 7 years old. You have trained your body around them. You have built your entire life inside them. The rule is this: you do not kill. You go into the field with an obsidian-edged weapon designed to wound, not end. You fight a man who is trying to do to you what you are trying to do to him. And when one of you goes down, when the arm is locked and the throat is controlled and the knees are in the dirt, the winner does not finish it. The winner ties the wrists and walks the man home. This is the Flower War. You have done this twice. A man named for the snake on his helmet. A boy barely older than you were the first time. 2 captures. 2 men walked back through the causeways of Tenochtitlan with their wrists bound to yours. 2 is not enough. 3 is the number that changes everything. 3 captures and the rank of Jaguar Warrior opens to you. 3 captures and you can wear the spotted skin over your shoulders, the helmet shaped like a snarling cat's head. 3 captures and the city knows your name in a different way, not as a man still proving himself, but as a man who has proven it. You are 24 years old. You have 1 more capture to make. The man you are going to face has heron feathers on his helmet. You have not met him yet. You have only heard about him from the Queshike, the shorn warrior who came to your fire last night and described the way the heron feather man moves. Counterclockwise, always. He pivots left when every other man pivots right. You have been thinking about that since the fire went low. You think about it now, in the dark, on the mat on the floor of the room where you were born. Your mother is not asleep. You can hear it in the quality of her silence. The particular stillness of someone choosing not to speak. Outside, the city is starting to breathe. Tenochtitlan does not wake slowly. It wakes all at once. 200,000 people on an island in the middle of a lake. And when the first light touches the Templo Mayor, the sound of it rises like something physical. Drums from the temple platform. Conch shells from the causeways. The smell of copal smoke moving across the water. This is the city you carry with you into every fight. You oil your skin in the dark. You wrap the cotton armor around your chest and shoulders. Ikahuipili, quilted tight and soaked in brine, dried until it is dense enough to stop an arrow at range. It is heavier than it looks. After a full day of wearing it, you can feel it in your lower back, in the place where the bottom edge presses against your hip. You have worn it until it fits the shape of you. Your Makiu Hutul leans against the wall. The wooden shaft is dark with handling, worn to the exact grip of your palm. The obsidian blades set into its edges, 10 on each side, napped to a sharpness that no metal tool available anywhere on this earth in this year can match. Catch the faint light coming through the doorway. You do not touch it yet. You sit. You press your thumbnail into your earlobe until a single drop of blood appears, and you hold your hand up in the dark in the direction of east, where the sun will come. You owe it something. You are about to ask it for something in return. The sun requires blood to move. This is not a metaphor. This is how the world works. The debt is called Nexlahuali, what is owed, and the Flower War is one of the primary mechanisms by which it is paid. You have known this since you could speak. It sits inside you the way the lake sits inside the valley, not as a belief you chose, but as the ground you stand on. You wipe your thumb on the mat. You stand. You pick up the macahuitl. Your mother still does not speak. You walk out into the city before dawn. This is quiet history at bedtime. If this is your kind of story, a subscribe means everything right now. Every detail in this story comes from the historical record. Just relax and feel free to let this play as you drift off to sleep. Now, let us begin. Your name is Itzli. It means obsidian. Your father chose it the morning after you were born because he looked at you and saw something hard and dark and sharp-edged, and he was right about all three. He died in a Flower War campaign when you were 11. Not in the fighting, in the march back, from a wound that had closed wrong and gone bad inside. You did not watch him die. You were here, in this city, in this room, and one morning a man from his unit came to the door and told your mother, and that was how you learned. You are 24. You are a warrior of the second tier. 2 captures confirmed, your name recorded in the Telpakali rolls with the marks beside it that mean what they mean. You trained at the Telpakali from age 15. The school for men like you, sons of minor lineages, sons of soldiers. Not the Kalmikak, where the priests and high nobles are made. The Telpakali, the house of youth, where they teach you to sleep in the cold, to run until the thought of stopping stops being available to you, to lock a man's arm behind his back with your weight on his spine and hold him there until he understands that the fight is finished. You are good at this work. You have been told so. You know it is true. But you have not made the 3rd capture, and until you do, you are still a man who might. The world you are walking through this morning is the largest city in the Western Hemisphere. You do not know this fact as a fact. You know it as the feeling of scale, as the number of fires visible from any elevated position, as the sound of a population that never fully goes quiet. Tenochtitlan sits on an island in Lake Texcoco, connected to the mainland by 3 great causeways, north to Tepeyac, south to Iztapalapa, west to Tlacopan. The causeways are wide enough for 8 men to walk abreast. They carry the food that keeps this city alive, maize and beans and squash and dried chili and the cacao that flows in from the lowland tributaries. And they carry the armies out and the prisoners back. You walk the western causeway now. The stone is smooth under your sandals. The lake on both sides is gray and flat in the pre-dawn, the far shore barely visible. Egrets stand in the shallows to your left, still as carvings. To your right, a line of canoes is already moving. Farmers from the Chinampa gardens coming in with the morning's cut flowers, reed baskets of tomatoes, bundles of quelite. The city exists because of this lake. The island was nothing 400 years before this morning, a marsh, a refuge for a people who had wandered for generations before they found the sign their God had promised, an eagle on a cactus with a serpent in its mouth. They built here because they had nowhere else to go, and they built so well that now there is nowhere larger in the world they know. The Aztec Triple Alliance controls a territory of roughly 200,000 square kilometers. The tribute it collects flows into Tenochtitlan from 38 provinces. Cotton, cacao, feathers, the iridescent green of the quetzal, the blue of the cotinga, gold, rubber, jaguar skins. The market at Tlatelolco, the great plaza on the northern part of the island, handles goods from the Gulf Coast and the Pacific Coast and the mountain regions and the jungle lowlands, all arriving through the trade networks that the Pocteca, the long-distance merchants who function as something between traders and intelligence agents, maintain and patrol. You have spent your life in the shadow of this wealth without fully entering it. That is about to change. The marshalling point is a broad plaza at the western end of the causeway where it meets the mainland road. By the time you arrive, several hundred men are already assembled. Your Telpakali cohort, warriors from the neighboring districts, a unit of Jaguar Warriors in their full spotted regalia standing apart from the rest with the particular stillness of men who have nothing left to prove this morning. You see your unit leader, Chimali, near the front. He sees you. He nods once. You take your place in the formation. The sun comes up behind you, behind the city, behind the great pyramid that dominates the island's center. When the light catches the temple platforms at the top of the Templo Mayor, the twin shrines 60 meters above the plaza floor, the reflection is visible for miles in every direction, bouncing off the stucco white walls and the lake surface alike. The entire valley lights up. You feel it on the back of your neck. Chimali calls the formation to attention. The men straighten. The sound of the city recedes behind you as the army gathers itself and begins to move, and the sound of the army itself fills the space the city left. Sandals on stone, the creak of equipment, the low voices of men going through the small private rituals that soldiers everywhere perform before they go somewhere that might end them. You are going to Tlaxcala. Tlaxcala is the reason the Flower War exists at all. The Triple Alliance has conquered most of what it has looked at. Kingdoms that resisted were broken. Rulers who refused tribute were removed. The empire's expansion is not subtle and it is not gentle, and the people who live inside its borders know what the alternative was. But Tlaxcala, a confederacy of 4 city-states in the highlands to the east, has never fallen, has never been conquered, has never paid tribute. This is not an accident. The relationship between Tenochtitlan and Tlaxcala is complex in a way that most simple conquests are not. The Flower War between them is formalized, structured, almost agreed upon. Both sides benefit from it. Tlaxcala produces elite warriors through the same mechanism you are inside right now. Tenochtitlan gets a permanent supply of opponents skilled enough to make capture meaningful. If you captured a farmer, it would mean nothing. The god does not want a farmer. The god wants the best you can find. The Tlaxcalans are the best you can find. The road east begins to climb. The valley floor gives way to hillside, and the hillside gives way to the higher ground where the air thins and the sky turns a deeper blue and the pines begin. You march in column, 4 abreast. The Jaguar Warriors still separate at the front. You can see their helmet backs, the open mouths of the jaguar skulls they wear as headgear, the spotted cloaks over their cotton armor. That will be you. After this campaign, that will be you. You focus on the road. You focus on your breathing. You think about the heron feather man and which direction he will pivot. Left. He always goes left. You will wait for it. You will be patient. You have walked 50 kilometers through mountain air with 60 pounds of equipment on your back before. You know what your body costs and what it can still give at the end of a day when everything cheaper has already been spent. The pine trees close around the column. The city disappears behind the ridge. You do not look back. You are not a large man. Medium height, wide through the shoulders, legs that have been carrying you over hard ground since you were a boy in the hills outside the city visiting your father's family. What you have is timing, the ability to read the moment before a man commits his weight and to be somewhere else when it arrives. Your first capture, a warrior from Huexotzinco, heavier than you, trained to use that weight as a weapon. He lunged. You stepped left, got your arm under his, used his own momentum against his balance. He went down before he understood what had happened. You were shaking afterward, not from fear, from the specific vibration of a body that has just done something it has been training to do for years and has done it correctly. Your second capture, a younger man from Tlaxcala itself, faster than the first. He almost had you, a feint you read a half-second too late, an obsidian blade that found the gap at your left shoulder, not deep but enough to remind you that this is not a drill. You locked his wrist. You put your knee into the back of his knee. He folded. He was 17. You remember his eyes when he understood it was finished. Not fear. Something else, a kind of settlement. The prisoners of the Flower War are not treated with cruelty. They are, in the framework of everything you know and believe, sacred. They are the material of the debt. They will be housed in Tenochtitlan. They will be fed. They will be adorned. They will be given the ceremony that their status demands. And when the time comes, when the priests and the calendar and the gods' requirements align, they will walk up the steps of the Templo Mayor themselves, of their own will, because the warrior culture on both sides of this war has made dying on that stone a form of arrival rather than ending. The sun goes to the house of the sun, the place where it stays, warm, fed, among the other warriors who have made the same journey. You believe this. It is not something you perform or recite. It is the structural reality of the world you inhabit, the same way the causeway is real, and the lake is real, and the weight of the Icahuipili pressing on your lower back is real. The column stops to rest at a spring near the pass. Men drink and eat, maize cakes wrapped in cloth, dried chili, pinole mixed with water in small ceramic cups. You eat without tasting. You drink more than you want to because you know what a half day of fighting in high-altitude sun costs in water. Chimali moves down the line. He stops beside you. 3, he says, just the number. 3, you say back. He moves on. The column reforms. The road descends on the far side of the pass, dropping into the Tlaxcalan Highland Basin. The air is cooler here. The light has a different quality, sharper, less haze, the kind of clarity that makes distances deceiving. What looks like a day's walk can be half a day. What looks like an hour can be 2. In the valley below, you can see the smoke of Tlaxcalan cook fires. You adjust your grip on the Macuitl. The sun is at the midpoint of its arc. Around you, the column has shifted in texture, quieter, more inward. The small conversations have stopped. The jokes that move through a marching formation when it is still far from the destination have run out. You are close now. You think about your father briefly, about what he looked like in his armor, about how he stood. You release it the way he would have told you to. The valley opens. The Tenochtitlan position is visible on the far side of the plain, a line of warriors in formation, their own banners catching the highland wind. Their drums are already sounding, a different rhythm than yours, lower and more complex. The field between you is brown grass and dry earth, and the occasional low scrub of desert brush. It is perhaps half a kilometer of open ground. Tomorrow morning you will cross it. The road from Tenochtitlan to the Tlaxcalan frontier is not a single road. It is a system, a network of maintained stone and packed earth paths that the Triple Alliance has built and continues to build, connecting the capital to its tributaries and its enemies alike. The road you walk has been in use for generations. Other men have made this march before you, wearing lighter armor, carrying different weapons, heading toward a field that was in a slightly different place. The specific location of Flower War engagements shifts over time as the frontier shifts, but the road remains. You know sections of it by texture. The smooth, mortared stone near the city, the clay-packed earth through the lower valley where spring flooding has washed out the worked surface, the loose shale on the upper slopes before the pass where you have to shorten your stride to keep your footing. You have walked this road twice before, and your body knows it the way it knows the layout of your sleeping room in the dark. The column you march in is organized by rank and unit. At the front, the Jaguar Warriors in full regalia. Not because they need protection, but because their presence at the head of the formation is itself a statement, a way of arriving at the field that the Tlaxcalan scouts will report back to their commanders. Behind them, the units of confirmed warriors like yours, men with 1 or 2 captures on their record, men who are here to add to it. And behind those, a smaller group of men on their first campaign, younger, moving with the careful attention of people who have trained for years for something they have not yet experienced. You were in that third group once. You remember the quality of that attention, the way everything seems to matter equally, because you do not yet have enough experience to rank what is worth attending to. The sound of every equipment noise, the behavior of every senior man, the way the officers speak to each other. Now you know what to attend to. Now you walk and conserve. The altitude change between Tenochtitlan and the Tlaxcalan Plateau is significant, perhaps 1,000 meters of climb from the lake basin to the highland pass. Your body manages it without complaint. Years of campaign marches and the training regimen of the Telpakali have built a cardiovascular capacity that most men outside the warrior schools would not recognize as achievable. At the Telpakali you ran, every morning before the sun was fully up, before food, in the cold. Distance runs, sprint intervals, runs with weight on your back, runs up grades steeper than this road. The instructors did not explain why. You understood early that they were not building runners. They were building men who could still function when everything else had been spent. That is what the altitude asks for now, not speed, function. The ability to be present and capable after the body has already paid for the distance. A younger warrior, 2 positions ahead of you, is asking an older man about capture technique. How much force is too much? how to read the moment when a man has decided to submit versus when he is still capable of a reversal. The older man answers in the flat, practical language of instruction: weight placement, the angle of the arm lock, the importance of controlling the head. You listen without appearing to. You learned most of what you know the same way, absorbing the conversations of men who had more experience, filing the information without marking it as important in the moment, finding it later when you needed it. The pass opens above the tree line, and for a moment the full highland basin is visible below, brown and vast and lit by the afternoon sun in a way that makes the distances feel wrong, makes the Tlaxcalan fires across the plain look closer than they are. The mountain air has a quality here that is different from anything at lower altitude, completely clear, cold at the edges even in full afternoon sun, carrying sound differently so that the wind through the sparse high-altitude grass makes a sound like something being carefully unsaid. Chimali raises his hand. The column stops. He looks at the basin for a long time. His face is unreadable in the way that experienced men's faces become when they are processing something they will not share until they have finished processing it. Then he lowers his hand and the column begins to move again, descending into the basin. You follow. The camp that night goes up quickly, with the efficiency of a formation that has done this enough times that setting up camp is as automatic as walking. Fire positions, perimeter watches, equipment storage, food distribution, all of it accomplished in the period between the column halting and full dark, so that by the time the sky is completely black, the camp is a functioning settlement with its own internal rhythms. You eat, you drink. You do not speak much. The man sitting across the fire from you is named Teocani. He is 31 and has 4 captures and has been in this state, confirmed warrior, not yet Jaguar rank, for 6 years. He achieved his 4th capture 2 years ago and should have been approaching Jaguar status at the same pace as the other members of his unit. But something happened on a campaign that you know only partially: an injury, a season of ineligibility, a period when the count was contested. The details are unclear, and you have never asked directly because it is not your place to ask directly. What you know is that Teocani is one of the best fighters you have ever trained beside. Clean technique, no wasted motion. The kind of practitioner who has long since stopped having to think about form and now moves the way water moves, following the path of least resistance to the outcome. The 3rd capture, he says, looking at the fire. Yes, you say. He nods slowly. He does not give advice. He has never given advice unless asked. What he gives instead is presence, the particular quality of attention that a man who has been in the same place offers to someone currently inside it. You are grateful for it. You do not say this. The fire burns lower. The Tlaxcalan drums across the plain maintain their rhythm. The stars complete their arc, and Venus, the war star, Tlahuiz Calpantacuatli, rises at last above the eastern ridge just before the sky begins to lighten. You have been watching for it. You take it as what it is, not a sign exactly, not a guarantee, but a confirmation that the calendar is moving the way it is supposed to move, that the sky is doing what the sky does, that the debt continues to be owed, and you are one of the mechanisms by which it will be paid. You are ready. The camp wakes around you. The fire dies. The morning comes. Tonight, you sleep on this side of the plain, and you think about heron feathers, and you listen to the Tenochtitlan drums in the dark, and you wait for the moment that everything in your life has been preparing you for. Just this, just the waiting. The Tlaxcalan drums do not stop at night. You learn this in the first hour after the camp settles, that the rhythm that seemed like battle preparation is actually something else, something continuous, a pulse that these people maintain through the dark hours like a city maintaining its fires. It is not threatening. It is present the way a river is present even when you cannot see it. You lie on your back on the ground with your ikahupili folded under your head and the makowito beside your right hand, and you look up at the highland sky and count stars without intending to. The sky out here is different from the city. In Tenochtitlan, the smoke and the torchlight and the sheer density of human activity softens the sky into something beautiful but imprecise. Out here, it is an instrument. The priests and calendar keepers of both Tenochtitlan and Tlaxcala read this sky the way you read a man's weight shifting before he commits to a move, not as background but as data. The planet you know as the morning star is Tlahuascalpantecutli, Lord of the House of Dawn, the war aspect of Quetzalcoatl. When it appears in the east before sunrise, it signals the opening of certain ritual periods. Warriors watch for it. Campaigns are timed around it. Tonight, it is below the horizon. You note this without attaching meaning. The priests handle meaning. You handle what your body is asked to do. Sleep comes slowly and leaves early. Before the sky has fully lightened, you are sitting up, your back against a pine tree at the camp's eastern edge, watching the Tlaxcalan fires across the plain. They have been burning all night. Their camp is larger than yours. The scouts who returned at dusk put their numbers at somewhere between 600 and 800 active warriors on this section of the frontier, with additional units positioned at the edges of the basin that may or may not be committed to this particular engagement. The Flower War is not chaos. This is the thing that outsiders, people who have heard of it only in passing, as something strange and ceremonial, do not understand. It is one of the most formally structured forms of conflict that exists in this part of the world. The battles happen at agreed-upon times, in agreed-upon locations. There are pre-arranged signals for the opening and closing of each day's engagement. Both sides know the terms. Both sides have invested in the system enough that breaking the terms would damage something neither side wants damaged. The system works because both Tenochtitlan and Tlaxcala need it to work. Tenochtitlan needs a permanent source of skilled opponents for capture, men whose sacrifice to Huitzilopochtli carries the weight that the god requires. Tlaxcala needs the same thing in the other direction, and beyond that needs something harder to name, the status of being the people that the Triple Alliance has never conquered. Their unconquered status is their identity. It is what their warriors train toward, what their city-state confederacy is built around. If Tenochtitlan ever truly wanted to take Tlaxcala, to bring it into the tribute network by force, they might. The military imbalance is real, but a destroyed Tlaxcala is useless. A Tlaxcala that fights back, that produces warriors worth capturing, that maintains its own elite martial culture in permanent productive conflict with yours, that Tlaxcala is exactly what the system requires. You have understood this for years. It does not make what happens on the field simpler. It only means you understand the context of what you are inside. Chimali appears at the edge of your sight, moving along the tree line. He stops when he reaches you, He lowers himself to a crouch, forearms on knees, looking at the fires across the plain with the same expressionless focus you have been holding for the past hour. "Sleep?" he asks. "Some." He nods. He reaches into the cloth pouch at his belt and produces 2 maize cakes and sets one beside you without comment. You eat it without comment. The maize is coarser than what you eat in the city, dried and ground differently, with a faintly smoky taste from the journey. Your daily food allocation on campaign is simple and consistent. Maize in various forms, dried chili, occasionally dried fish or insects for protein, salt, and water. That is essentially all. The Aztec military operates on a supply chain that any commander in any part of the world would recognize as sophisticated. The Pocteca merchants who scout and trade along the campaign routes also pre-position food caches at intervals so that a moving army of several hundred men does not have to carry more than 2 or 3 days of supplies at any time. The ceramic water vessels are the heaviest part of your load. The maize you carry compactly in cloth bundles. You have been doing this for 5 years. You know what your body needs and at what intervals, and you have stopped noticing the gap between campaign food and the food you eat at home. "He will be on the right flank," Chimali says. He does not specify who. He does not need to. "How far right?" "3rd position from the end of the line." He anchors the edge. Chimali pauses. He does that deliberately. He wants his left side open so he can pivot. You process this, counterclockwise, always pivots left. And he places himself where his left side has open space to rotate into. He has built the entire field around the thing he does best, and he does it so consistently that men like Chimali's sources know to watch for it. This man has been in the Flower War for a long time. What is his count, you ask? 7 confirmed captures, possibly 8. You say nothing. 7 captures means he has been operating at this level for years. He is not an aspirant. He has already achieved the rank his culture has to offer. He comes to the field now because this is what he does, because the field is where he lives. A man with 7 captures who still comes out does not come out to prove something. He comes out because he knows the field the way you know the city. Every angle, every surface, every distance. He comes out because he is better on the field than he is anywhere else, and he has learned to want to be where he is best. You are going to have to take him before he takes you. The sky begins to gray. Around the camp, men are waking without being called. The internal mechanism of soldiers who have learned to have their body produce the signal their commanders would otherwise have to give. You hear the quiet sounds of preparation, the tightening of armor straps, the testing of weapon edges, the low muttered offerings to various gods and aspects and ancestor spirits that constitute the private religion of a warrior camp. The formal religion of the state, the great ceremonies, the calendar of sacrifices, the architectural program of the temples, sits on top of a layer of personal practice that is older and quieter and belongs to each man individually. You have your own. Before any engagement, you run 3 fingers along the flat of your makuitl's blade from base to tip and speak your father's name once, quietly, and then you do not speak it again until you are back in camp. You do this now. The blade is cold from the night air. The formation assembles in the same silence as the waking. Chamali moves down the line, adjusting positions, correcting spacing, confirming what each man's role is in the opening sequence. The Flower War has a structured opening, a formal arrangement of forces, the exchange of conch shell signals between the two sides that indicates readiness, a pause, and then the engagement begins. It is not a surprise attack. It is not an ambush. The dignity of the capture requires that both sides enter with full knowledge of what they are entering. You take your position in the second rank, 4 men in from the left edge. From here you have clear sight lines to the right side of the Tlaxcalan formation, where the Heron Featherman will anchor the line. You will need to work your way across the field before you can reach him, which means you may need to handle 1 or 2 intermediate opponents first. The goal is speed without injury. Subdue quickly, do not get hit. Preserve yourself for the fight that matters. The sun breaks the ridge to the east. Across the plain, the Tlaxcalan formation catches the same light, and the feathers and the pigment on their armor flare into color: red ochre, yellow from achiote, the deep blue-green of copal-treated featherwork. They are beautiful in the way that a serious and dangerous thing is beautiful when it is fully itself. The conch shell sounds from your side, 3 long notes. A pause. 3 long notes from the Tlaxcalan side, lower in tone. The sound travels across the brown grass and hits you in the chest. Then their drums change, and the field begins. The first clash is loud in a way that you always forget between engagements. The percussive impact of obsidian on cotton armor, the sharp crack of macuahuitl shafts making contact, the immediate yells that are not fear but effort, the sound men make when they are spending themselves against something resistance. You move through it the way you move through a crowd in the market, reading the space before you occupy it, feeling for the opening before committing weight. The man in front of you is wearing a Telpocali standard suit, cotton armor, simple wooden helmet, a macuahuitl with worn edges. He is experienced enough to read your first movement and not overcommit to his counter. You spend 4 exchanges feeling each other out, each reading the other's timing, each withholding the full attempt until the opening is clear. He is good. He is not the man you came for. You feint right, draw his weight left, and then your right arm is inside his guard and your forearm is across his throat, and you go down with him, taking him to the ground with your full body weight behind the movement, and you hold there while he understands what has happened. He stops struggling. The rules are clear inside him, the same as they are inside you. You bind his wrists with the cord at your belt and call over one of the designated escorts, men assigned to walk prisoners back to a holding position at the rear of your formation. The escort takes him without ceremony. You stand. You check yourself. The left shoulder, still tender from the second campaign, still holding. The right knee, reluctant since the march, moving freely. You look across the field. The right edge of the Tlaxcalan line is 60 meters away. Between you and it, the battle is in full complex motion, small engagements everywhere, individual fights and 2-on-2 struggles, and the occasional knot of 3 or 4 men where something has gone sideways for someone. The sound is continuous and layered, a texture rather than individual events. And at the far right edge, anchoring his end of the line, standing slightly apart from the engagement nearest to him, with the composure of a man who selects his moments rather than reacting to them. You see the heron feathers. White, long, real heron feathers from the great white heron, mounted on a hardwood frame above the helmet and rising 1/2 meter above his head. They move in the highland wind. At this distance, you cannot see his face. You can see his posture. He is watching the field the same way you watch the field, not at the nearest fight, but at the shape of the whole thing, looking for the angle. He has not moved from his position at the edge. He is waiting for something to come to him. You understand immediately. He is so skilled at what he does that he can afford to let the field reorganize around him. Lesser opponents will work their way toward him. He will handle them as they arrive. He has enough captures already that he is not operating out of urgency. He is operating out of a kind of professional mastery that is almost peaceful to observe. You are the urgency. You are the one who needs this. That is both your problem and your advantage. A man who is waiting is a man whose attention is outward. You need to cross 40 meters of active battlefield without taking a wound that slows you, which means you need to pick a path through the chaos rather than a straight line across it. You need to be at his position with your body intact. You start moving, not toward him, diagonally, working across the field in the direction that the general engagement is flowing, using the movement of other fighters to shield your approach, threading between active pairs rather than through them. You are not running. You are moving at the pace that does not trigger the peripheral awareness of men focused on their own fights. 20 meters. A man stumbles into your path. His opponent has put him off balance. He grabs at your arm instinctively to stabilize. You shrug him off without breaking stride. 10 meters. The heron feather man has noticed you. You see his posture shift, the slight turn of the shoulders that means his attention has updated. You stop. You are 10 meters away. He is looking at you. You are looking at him. The field continues around you both. Other men engage and disengage. The drums continue. The sound of obsidian on armor continues. For a moment, 5 seconds perhaps, though it feels longer, neither of you moves. He is older than you expected. Not old, maybe 30, 32, but there are lines at the corners of his eyes that come from years of squinting at open sky, and the way he holds himself has the quality of a man who has made peace with what he is. The heron feathers ride above his head in the wind. His makuahitl is in his right hand, angled down and slightly behind his body. His left side is open. You wait. He watches you wait. He knows you have read the pivot. He can see that you know. He is calculating, deciding whether to abandon the pattern entirely or to use the fact that you expect it. This is the thing about fighting men who are genuinely better than you. The contest starts before the contact. It starts here, 10 meters apart, in the information you exchange without words. The highland wind moves through the heron feathers. He moves first, and you are moving with him before the thought has finished forming. The engagement begins. It does not resolve quickly. You knew it would not. You feel the first exchange in your forearms, his makuahitl turning yours, the impact transmitted up to your elbows. and you register that his strength is real, not ceremonial. He is heavier through the chest than he looked at distance. His pivot, when it comes, is faster than the Coachiqua described. You go with it instead of against it. Let him rotate. Step inside the arc. His elbow catches your cheekbone, not the blade, the elbow, as his arm comes around. The field tilts sideways for a moment. You stay down in your crouch, get your right arm under his extended limb, and force yourself not to rush. Not yet. The engagement continues. The drums continue. Your cheekbone begins to swell. Somewhere behind you, Tenochtitlan is waiting. The Templo Mayor is waiting. Your rank is waiting. The spotted skin and the name that goes with it, the land grant and the Kalmakok training, and the door opening into everything that comes after the third capture. Your mother is waiting. You breathe. You read him. You wait for the moment when the pattern he has run 100 times becomes the thing that lets you inside it. You do not rush. You wait. The thing that makes him dangerous is not the pivot. You have been thinking about this since the first exchange landed your cheekbone against his elbow, since the field tilted and you stayed in the crouch and refused to rush. The pivot is the delivery mechanism. The thing that makes him dangerous is what he does before the pivot, the way he reads your commitment before you have fully committed, the way he waits in a stillness that only looks passive until the moment it becomes the fastest thing on the field. He is dangerous the way a trap is dangerous, not because of violence, but because of patience. You have fought 3 more exchanges in the time it takes to think this. Each one ends where it begins. Neither of you with a clear advantage. Both of you burning energy. The field continuing its noise and motion around you. The men on either side of your positions have resolved their own engagements and moved on. You and the Heron Feather Man are an island in the middle of the battle. 2 people who have agreed without speaking that this particular contest will take whatever it takes. Your left shoulder is talking to you now, not loud. A persistent message from the site of the old wound, the obsidian cut from the second campaign that went deep enough to matter. It is reminding you that it is there. You acknowledge it and set it aside the way you set aside hunger or cold on a long march, as information received, logged, not acted upon. He faints left. You do not move. He checks himself, a micropause, the equivalent of a man who has set a table and watched the other person not sit down. He adjusts. He is good enough that adjusting does not cost him much, but it costs something. You are noting what it costs. The sun has moved. You do not know how much time has passed since the opening signals. It might be an hour, might be 2. The engagement has its own time, separate from the clock of the day. What you know is that the sun is higher, and your body has spent more of what it came with. The shoulder is louder now. The right knee has added its own quiet complaint. He knows this. He is managing the same calculation in reverse, trying to determine how much of what you started with remains, and whether the answer justifies the risk of committing. This is the Flower War at its deepest level. Not the training, not the technique, not even the moves and counter-moves. It is this: 2 men with similar preparation facing each other across a small piece of ground, each measuring what the other has left, each deciding whether the moment has arrived. You make a decision. You let him see you favor the left shoulder. Not theatrically, you would not insult him with a performance. You stop compensating for it. Let the arm carry its weight slightly lower than optimal. Let the adjustment be visible in your guard. It is a small advertisement. He sees it. Of course he sees it. 7 captures does not happen without seeing everything. The question is whether he takes the advertisement at face value or whether he reads it as what it is, an invitation. He takes half a step forward. You hold your position. You let him take another half step. The distance between you closes from 10 meters to 7, then to 5. His makuawitl has shifted in his grip, slightly higher now, angling toward your left side. Toward the shoulder he is read as the problem. He is going to your left. He is breaking his own pivot pattern because he has read the situation, and the shoulder seems real, and the shoulder is on your left side, and your left side is the target, and he is good enough to adapt. What he has not fully accounted for is that you have been waiting for the adaptation. The moment he commits the weight, when the step forward becomes a directed movement rather than positioning, you drop your right shoulder, turn your body to close the angle, and your right arm comes up under the line of his weapon. Not a block, an intercept. You redirect his movement rather than stop it. Let the energy pass while your left arm, the one that has been pretending to be the problem, comes around behind his weapon arm. You do not have him yet. This is not the finish, but you are inside his guard, and he knows it, and there is a quality to the next 3 seconds that is different from everything before it. Tighter, more immediate, both of you very close and operating entirely on reflex. His elbow drives back toward you. You move with it. His weight shifts to get clear of your grip. You go with the shift instead of fighting it, and that is when his balance is wrong, and you have his weapon arm, and your right leg is behind his right leg, and you take him down. He goes down controlled, turning with the fall the way a trained man falls, minimizing injury. He is good even in this. Even going to the ground, he is good. You are on top of him, your full weight on his spine, his weapon arm extended and locked at the elbow. His face is against the dry highland grass. The heron feathers, several knocked loose in the fall, lie beside his head in the dirt. He is still. You feel his body assess the position, the chest expanding and contracting under your knee, the arm testing the lock without struggling against it. He is not panicking. He is reading the situation with the same professional calm he brought to everything else, and arriving at the same conclusion you would arrive at in his position. It is finished. You maintain the hold for another full breath, long enough for both of you to be certain. Then you reach for the cord at your belt. His breathing slows. The tension in his body has a different quality now. Not resistance, but the rest that comes when a decision has been made. He turns his head slightly, and you can see his profile, one eye visible, watching the ground beside him where his own heron feathers are scattered in the dirt. His expression is not defeat. It is something closer to what you felt after your own first campaign, the first time your name was read out in the Tel Pakali courtyard with the capture mark beside it. Settlement, the word you found for it before, watching the 17-year-old Tlaxcalan in his moment of understanding. You bind his wrists. You call the escort. You stand. Your knee complains. Your shoulder complains. Your cheekbone, where his elbow found it in the first exchange, has swollen enough that you can feel the pressure of it from the inside. None of this is serious. All of it will take time you will have because the campaign is over for you now. You have what you came for. The escort takes the heron feather man away with the care that his status demands. He walks under his own power. He does not look back at you. You stand in the middle of the field, and the battle continues around you, and the sun is past its highest point, and the highland wind moves through the place where his feathers were, and you do not move for a long moment. 3. The number sits inside you with a weight that is different from what you expected. Not lighter, not heavier. Just different, real in a way that the imagined version of this moment was not real. Chimali appears at the edge of your vision. He stops beside you and looks at where the escort and the prisoner are already crossing back toward your lines. He says nothing for long enough that the silence becomes a kind of speech. 3, he says finally. 3, you say. He puts his hand on your left arm, not the shoulder, not the formal clap of recognition, but the forearm, the grip that one man gives another when words are not available. Then he releases it and moves back into the field. You look up at the sky. The sun is there, moving on its arc, fed and maintained by the mechanism of which you are one small working part. The debt continues. The calendar continues. The field continues around you with its noise and its effort and its small negotiations of weight and timing and will. You pick up your makua from where it landed in the fall. You run 3 fingers along the flat of the blade, base to tip. You speak your father's name once, quietly. Then you do not speak it again. The march home begins tomorrow. Your rank is waiting, and somewhere inside the holding area at the rear of your formation, a man with heron feathers is sitting in the highland grass, his wrists bound, his breathing even, watching the afternoon light change on the mountains he may never see again. You will bring him water before the sun goes down. That is the other half of what this is. The night camp settles differently than the previous one. The difference is in the sound. 2 nights ago, with the campaign still ahead of you, the camp had a quality of containment, men keeping themselves close to what they were carrying, conversations low, the internal temperature of people managing something not yet resolved. Tonight the containment is gone. The fire talk is freer. Men sit in configurations that do not follow unit lines. Someone near the western edge of the camp is playing a clay flute, something low and repetitive, and no one tells him to stop. You are at the fire nearest the prisoner holding area. Not because you were assigned there. You moved there after the evening meal without consciously deciding to. Tayokani noticed and sat beside you without comment, which is the most Tayokani comment possible. The prisoners are in a roped enclosure, not tied to stakes, not caged, simply bounded by a rope line maintained by 2 rotating escorts. Within the enclosure, they can move freely. They have been given food and water. Several are sleeping. Several are talking quietly among themselves in Tlaxcalan dialect, a sound that carries the shapes of Nahuatl without the words, close enough to understand fragments and far enough to feel the distance. The heron feather man is sitting with his back against a pine tree at the enclosure's edge. He is not sleeping. He is doing what you have been doing all evening, looking at the fire, or at the space above the fire, or at something behind the fire that only he can see. He is thinking. You watch him think in the way that you watch the field during a pause, not intrusively, but with the awareness of someone who has learned to read posture and stillness as information. His body is settled, not the tight settlement of a man suppressing something, but the genuine settlement of a man who has arrived at something and is sitting with it. Teocani speaks without looking away from his own fire. You know where he goes, he says. You do not answer immediately. You are thinking about what the heron feather man said when you gave him water. The two words you caught in his dialect, the ones that might have been 7 times and I also waited, or might have been something else entirely. The distance between your Nahuatl and his Eastern dialect is enough to make certainty impossible. What you have instead is an impression, the felt sense of what the words carried even if the content is uncertain. He goes to the sun, you say finally. Yes, Teocani nods once, the same place as the rest. This is the belief in its most fundamental form, reduced by Teocani to its structural core. The warriors who die in sacrifice go to the eastern sky, to the house of the sun, where they become the companions of Tonatiuh, the sun himself, and travel with him across the sky from dawn to noon. After 4 years in that service, they are released to become hummingbirds or butterflies, moving through the world in a form that is neither fully alive nor fully dead, but continuously present. Tonatiuh's house, the sun's house. It is not a consolation. It is not a compensation offered to make a hard thing easier. It is the actual structure of the cosmology, the place that warriors go, the afterlife reserved for the men who die on the stone, distinct from the afterlife of ordinary death, ranked higher than most of what ordinary death offers. You know men who have taken prisoners to that stone. You know men who have walked their own captured opponents up the steps of the Templo Mayor in the formal procession that precedes the ceremony. You have not done this yourself. Your previous prisoners were taken in years when the sacrifice calendar did not align immediately with the campaign season, and the formal ceremonies were handled by the temple priests without the individual warriors' direct participation required. This time it may be different. The Templo Mayor dedication is this week. Your prisoners, all 3 of them, are among the ones who will be incorporated into the dedication ceremonies. The scale of this event means that every prisoner from every recent campaign is being gathered, and the calendar has been arranged, and the priests have been working for weeks on the precise sequencing. You may be asked to participate directly. You have been told that it is considered an honor. You believe this. You have also been told that it is difficult in ways that the ceremony does not make visible, that men come back from it quieter than they left, that the thing which happens on the platform is real in a way that the preparation and the theory and the cosmological framework cannot entirely account for until you are there. You have never been afraid of it. You do not think you are afraid now. What you feel is something more like the sensation you had on the morning of your first campaign. Not fear, but the heightened attention of standing at the edge of an experience that will change what you know, that will add information you do not currently have and cannot currently imagine. The clay flute continues at the edge of camp. The fire burns lower, and no one adds wood because the night is not cold enough to require it. You think about the sun. Aztec astronomical knowledge is not simple or primitive. The calendar keepers of Tenochtitlan, the Tonanpake who read the 260-day ritual calendar, the Siopake who maintain the 365-day solar calendar, the specialists who track the movements of Venus and the positions of the Pleiades, have been accumulating and systematizing astronomical observation for generations. The 52-year cycle at the intersection of the two calendars, the Siumolpili, the binding of years, is understood with a mathematical precision that has required decades of careful observations. The end of each 52-year cycle is a period of profound anxiety in the city. The possibility that the sun will not continue, that the cycle will not renew, that the debt has not been sufficiently paid. The new fire ceremony at the end of each Siumolpili is the moment of collective breath-holding. Every fire in the city extinguished, the population waiting in the dark on hillsides and rooftops, watching the priests at the hilltop of Huixatlan attempt to kindle a new fire from the fire drill while the Pleiades cross the zenith. If the fire catches, the cycle continues. The runners spread out from the hilltop carrying the new flame in all directions, and the city relights itself, fire by fire, canal by canal, neighborhood by neighborhood. And the relief of a city releasing something it has been holding is a sound that the lake carries for miles. You were 6 years old at the last new fire ceremony. You remember being held up by your father so you could see over the adults' heads. You remember the darkness, the deliberate, total darkness of a city that has extinguished everything. And then the point of light on the hilltop, and then the sound. Your father lifted you higher so you could see the runners descending with the flame. You think about this now at the fire, with the clay flute somewhere behind you and the prisoners settling into whatever version of sleep the night will provide. You think about your father lifting you above the crowd and the new fire spreading through the dark city and the sound of an entire population releasing something it had been holding for years. The debt was paid. The sun would continue. That is what the heron feather man is part of. Not the machinery of one culture's dominance over another, not cruelty for its own purpose, not the exercise of power divorced from meaning, the mechanism. The thing that keeps the sun in the sky. The payment of a debt so fundamental that the alternative is not defeat or suffering, but the end of the world's ability to continue. You know this. You sit with it the way you sit with the shoulder, as the present reality, as the ground under everything else. The fire dies to embers. Teocani shifts beside you, looks at the heron feather man through the rope line, then back at the coals. You gave him water, he says. Yes. He does not ask why. You could not have explained it fully, even if he had. You picked up the fallen feathers. You brought the water. Some part of you understood that the exchange between you and the heron feather man did not end when the cord was tied, that there was something still in motion between you that the formal mechanics of capture and escort did not cover. He is 35 or 36 years old. He has been doing this since he was younger than you are now. He has stood where you stood today, inside someone else's guard, pressing someone else's face into the dry grass, reading someone else's assessment of the position and the rhythm of their breathing. He has done it 7 times. He understands the mechanism from both sides in a way that you have now only begun to understand it from one. When you brought him the water vessel, he drank without looking at you. When he was done, he looked at you directly, and said the words you could not fully translate, and then he looked away. You think he was telling you he knew what waiting cost, that he had paid it too. The camp quiets further. The clay flute stops. Around the enclosure, the prisoners' movements have slowed to the stillness of sleep and near sleep, each man doing what the body does when the day has been spent and there is nothing left to spend it against. The heron feather man has not moved from his position against the pine tree. His eyes are open. He is looking at the same dark sky you have been looking at, the same stars, the same arc of the planetary bodies moving on their paths above the highland basin. He has the expression of a man who is reviewing something, not with distress, but with the focused attention of a practitioner going over technique. You watch him for a while longer. Then you lie down on your side with your equipment arranged around you the way a soldier arranges it. The mekuhetl accessible, the water vessel close, the distance between yourself and the nearest fire calibrated for warmth without light in the eyes. The ground is hard. The night is cool at the edges, but not cold enough to intrude. The Tlaxcalan drums somewhere across the plain send their rhythm through the ground, and you feel it in your back and in the soles of your feet. You let it carry you. Tomorrow, the road home. The city is already there, waiting, the way it has always been waiting, enormous and alive on its island in the lake, its fires burning, its drums sounding, its population going about the work of being what they are inside the largest and most complex thing any of them will ever inhabit. You are going back to it with 3 captures. You are going back different than you left. Sleep arrives, the drums hold. You do not fight either one. The march home is different from the march out. You notice it in the first hour before the column has fully cleared the highland basin and begun its climb toward the pass. Something has shifted in the texture of the movement, not the pace, which is the same measured campaign pace as any other day, but the quality of the attention. On the march out, every man was carrying something forward. Now the thing has been picked up, and you are all carrying it back. And carrying something back feels different in the body than carrying the intention to get it. The prisoners walk in the center of the formation. There are 14 of them from this campaign engagement, 13 men from the battle, and 1 man who was taken in a skirmish at the edge of the basin 2 days before you arrived. They walk in pairs, wrists bound, each pair separated from the next by 2 warrior escorts. They are not chained. They are not blindfolded. They walk with the same view of the road and the mountains and the morning sky as everyone else in the column. The heron feather man is 3rd pair from the front. His helmet is still on. The remaining feathers move in the pass wind. You are aware of where he is in the column, the way you are aware of the shoulder, not constantly, but with a background sense of location that your body maintains without being asked. The pass opens and the valley below appears, and for the first time since you left, the smell of Tenochtitlan reaches you before you can see it. Copal smoke and lake water, and the particular density of a city metabolizing and burning and cooking and working all at once. It is unmistakable. It is home. You breathe it in and keep walking. The descent is harder on the knee than the ascent was. You shorten your stride, shift more weight to the right leg than the left. Accept the negotiation your body is asking for. By midday, the foothills have leveled out and the road has returned to the smooth stone surface of the valley floor, and the walking is easier, and you can see the shimmer of the lake ahead through the dry season haze. The column does not rush. There is no urgency in the pace. The campaign is complete. The prisoners are secure. The account of the day's work has been taken and will be formally presented when the column reaches the city. What there is instead is something like ceremony in the movement itself, the measured pace of a formation that knows what it is carrying, that understands its return to the city as an event with weight. At the causeway, the city comes out to meet you. Not formally. There is no official reception for a flower war return of this scale, no ceremony at the causeway entrance. But the city's people know the rhythm of campaigns, and the people near the causeway entrance have been watching the column approach across the flat of the lake road, and the word has moved ahead of the column with the speed that words move in a dense population. By the time the column sets foot on the causeway stone, there are people on both sides of the road. They are quiet, not the silence of indifference, the silence of people who understand what they are looking at. You have seen this before, from the other side, standing in this crowd as a child, watching a column come back, reading the faces of the warriors for information about what the campaign had cost. Now you are the information. Now you are what the faces in the crowd are reading. A woman near the causeway entrance sees you and touches the person beside her and points, and you do not know who they are or how they know you, but the pointing happens, and you look straight ahead and keep walking. The city opens around you as the column crosses the causeway and enters the island streets. Tenochtitlan's canal system means the streets near the water are narrow and shadowed. The high adobe walls of residential compounds rising on both sides, the sound of the column's footsteps reflecting off the walls and coming back at you. The smell of the lake gives way to the smell of the city's interior, charcoal, dried chili, maize steam from kitchens behind walls, the occasional sharp note of fresh-cut flowers from a garden somewhere above the wall line. Your mother does not know yet when you are coming. You think about this as the column moves through the streets toward the central plaza and the Telpakali compound, where the prisoners will be formally received and the campaign record will be closed. She knows you left. She does not know the outcome. She has been sitting in the room where you were born, doing the work she does every day, and inside that work she has been carrying something that will not fully resolve until you come through the door. You will go to her tonight, after the formal process, after the record. The Telpakakal compound is built around a central courtyard, 3 sides walls and 1 side open to the street, a practical design that allows formations to move in and out without the bottleneck of a gate. The column flows into the courtyard and the formation dissolves into its component units. The prisoners are directed to the far wall, not roughly, not with ceremony, but with the calm directional guidance of escorts who know the procedure. The compound officers receive the campaign record from Chamali, who recites the count and the status of each prisoner with the formal brevity of a man who has done this many times: unit designation, engagement location, date, count of captures confirmed, count of wounded, no dead. The officer records this in the folded bark paper book that constitutes the Telpakali's administrative record. Your name appears in it now with 3 marks beside it instead of 2. You watch the mark being added. It is a small thing, a brush stroke, a symbol you have known since childhood, applied to a strip of bark paper in a compound courtyard, while pigeons move through the eaves above, and the smell of someone's afternoon meal drifts over the wall from the residential district next door. Small, ordinary, and completely the most significant mark you have ever watched anyone make. The formal confirmation of your third capture means the following. You will be entered into the Kalmyka training register as a Jaguar Warrior candidate. You will receive a land allocation from the city's warrior class land holdings, a plot in the agricultural belt south of the island, worked by the tribute system, generating income you have not had before. Your mother's situation will change. Not dramatically. This is not wealth in the way the highest Pippleton know wealth, but meaningfully in the ways that access to stable income changes the texture of daily life for people who have not had it. And you will wear the jaguar skin. The tlahuisli, the warrior suit that signals rank, for a jaguar warrior is exactly what its name describes. A fitted suit sewn from actual jaguar hide, the spotted pattern preserved, worn over the cotton armor so that the rank is visible from any distance in any battle. Above it, the helmet in the shape of a jaguar's open mouth, the warrior's face looking out through the teeth. It is not subtle. It is not meant to be subtle. It is a communication to every person in every field, friend and enemy both, about what they are looking at. You have seen these suits your entire life. You have watched the men inside them the way you watched everything in the city, as information, as standard, as the thing you were moving toward without being certain you would reach it. The ceremony where you formally receive the suit will happen within the next 2 weeks, timed to the ritual calendar. The priests and calendar keepers will identify the appropriate day, a specific intersection of the 260-day tonal calendar and the 365-day solar calendar that makes the designation of new Jaguar Warriors auspicious. You do not know which day that will be. You will be told. Until then, you remain what you are. A man with 3 captures and a mark in a book. It is enough. It is more than enough. You walk out of the compound into the late afternoon city. The sun is low now, the light coming at the angle that makes the lake visible between buildings, flashes of silver-gold water at the ends of east-west streets. You hear the city all around you without separating it into parts. The city as a single sound, a single texture, the background against which your entire life has been lived. You walk toward home. The warrior district where you grew up is south of the Telpakali compound. 3 blocks of winding canal-side streets where the residential compounds of warrior-class families are clustered by historical accident and maintained by preference. The houses here are larger than the commoner districts, not palatial but solid, with interior courtyards and stone rather than adobe in the lower walls. Your family's house is smaller than most on the block. Your father left 3 children and no land, and the income from his warrior service, and after he died what remained was the house and your mother's skilled hands at the reed mat making that she sells through a woman at the Tlatelolco market. You come through the outer door. The courtyard is the same as when you left, swept clean. The single avocado tree your father planted in the corner, still dropping leaves in the dry season. The water jar near the kitchen door. The reed mats stacked against the interior wall. Your mother is at the grinding stone in the kitchen doorway with her back to you, her arms working the long rhythm of the mano against the metate, grinding dried maize into masa. She does not hear you come in. Or she hears you and does not turn. You stand in the courtyard for a moment. Then she sets the mano down. She does not turn immediately. She places both palms flat on the edge of the metate and stays there for the length of several breaths. Then she turns. She looks at you in the way that people look at things they have been imagining the condition of, and now do not have to imagine. Her eyes go to the swollen cheekbone, to the shoulder you are carrying slightly low, to your face, to all of it at once, with the attention of someone who has been assembling this picture piece by piece from distance for days. Then she comes to you and puts her hands on either side of your face, carefully around the cheekbone, and holds your face in her hands and looks at you. You let her look. After a moment, she releases you and turns back to the grinding stone and picks up the mano and begins again. You go to the water jar and drink. You sit on the low stone bench along the courtyard wall and let the fatigue arrive now that there is somewhere to put it. 3, you say. She does not stop grinding, but her rhythm changes just slightly for just a moment. That is all. That is everything. The city continues outside the walls. The Templo Mayor is visible above the roofline to the north, the twin peaks of the shrines to Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc, catching the last direct sun while the streets below are already in shadow. This is the week of the great temple dedication ceremonies, the final and largest of the series of rites that Ahuitzotl began when the rebuilt Templo Mayor was completed. This is the reason the campaign you have just returned from carries particular weight this season. The dedication requires sacrifice on a scale that ordinary campaign seasons do not approach. The numbers will be spoken of for generations. You know this already, the way you know that the sun requires blood to move, not as something you were told and accepted, but as the structural reality of the world you live in. The Templo Mayor dedication of this year is not an anomaly. It is the largest single expression of a system that has been operating continuously, in smaller form, your entire life. 20,000, some say. The priests' accounts, the official numbers, circulate in the city the way all official information circulates, through the mouths of men who were adjacent to it, through the administrative records that only the literate can read, through the visible fact of the columns of prisoners that have been arriving in Tenochtitlan from campaigns across the empire for the past 3 months, in preparation for this week. You do not know whether the number is exact. You know what the smoke looks like. You know how many days the drums have been running. You know the size of the skull rack in the central precinct, which extends further than you can see from ground level. What exists is the smoke visible from every rooftop in the valley, the sound of the temple drums that have not stopped for 4 days, the copal smell that has settled into the stone of every building in the city. Your mother brings food, a bowl of black bean soup with dried chili, 2 maize cakes, a small piece of dried fish. She sets it beside you on the bench without speaking and goes back to the kitchen. You eat slowly, with the attention of a body that has been waiting for this opportunity for most of the day. The soup is the taste of this house, the proportion of dried chili to black bean, the way your mother adds the dried herb at the end rather than during the cooking, the faint smoke of the hearth in everything. You have eaten this exact soup in every season of your life. Campaign food is competent and functional and has no taste that belongs to anywhere. This tastes like the courtyard, like the reed mats and the grinding stone and the water jar. You finish the bowl. You set it down. Above the roofline, the temple fire burns. You think about the heron featherman in the holding compound near the Templo Mayor, where the prisoners from this campaign and many others have been gathered in preparation for the dedication ceremonies. He is there now, fed, attended, given the consideration that the system reserves for the men who will complete its purpose. The priests will have spoken to him. The ceremony of acknowledgement will have begun. He understands what he is inside. He has understood it longer than you have. You do not grieve this. Grief is not the correct mechanism for what you feel when you think about him. What you feel is something more structural, more like the sensation of understanding a system from the inside, the awareness that you are one part of something larger than any of its individual pieces, that the heron feather man is another part, and that the larger thing is what the city is built around, what the temple on the hill is built for, what the lake reflects in its flat silver surface in the early morning when everything is still. The next Lahuali, the debt. You picked up his fallen feathers. You gave him water. You could not speak his dialect well enough to say what needed saying, and perhaps what needed saying could not be said in any dialect. You hope the feathers meant something. You think they did. Night has fully arrived. The courtyard is dark, except for the firelight bleeding over the roofline from the direction of the Templo Mayor, orange and unsteady, painting the underside of the smoke that has been sitting above the city for days. The avocado tree is a shadow against the wall. Your mother comes to the courtyard doorway and stands there looking at the same fire-lit sky. Neither of you speaks. The city breathes around you, an island in a lake, the largest city in the world you know, and tonight it is breathing with a quality, held, attentive, the collective awareness of a population that understands what the drums mean and what the smoke means and what is happening on the platform above the city. Tomorrow the ceremony will continue. Tomorrow the calendar will advance another day. Tomorrow the priests will read the sky and make the determinations that the sky requires. Tonight you are home. The fire on the temple burns. The drums hold their rhythm. The lake sits still and dark beyond the city's edge, reflecting nothing, holding everything. You let the fatigue come fully now, into your legs, into the shoulder, into the knee that will be stiff in the morning. You let it arrive without fighting it. Your mother goes inside. The courtyard is quiet except for the drums, which are never quiet, which will be there when you wake, which have been there your entire life. You sit with your back against the stone wall and your hands loose in your lap, and your face turned toward the temple fire above the roofline, and you let the weight of the day, the weight of the 3 days, the weight of the entire 24 years that have been building toward the mark in the book, and the spotted skin and the names said differently, you let all of it settle. It settles. The drums pulse on. You close your eyes. You do not keep them closed. Something in you is not ready yet. You open them again and look at the avocado tree your father planted in the corner of this courtyard. He was 22 when he put it in the ground. He pressed the seed into the soil with 2 fingers and covered it and told you, years later, that he had not expected it to take. The soil on the island is thin over the fill rock. The roots have to find their way down through cracks to reach the lake water below. Most trees planted this way fail. This one did not. It is taller than the compound wall now. It has been taller than the compound wall since you were a teenager, and noticed it one morning in a way you had not noticed it before. Your father was still alive then. He was in the courtyard with you, going through his own pre-dawn equipment check, and you both looked at the tree at the same moment, and neither of you said anything about it. You have been thinking about him differently since the campaign, not with more grief. The grief is old and has found its settled shape inside you, the way old wounds find their shape, with something more like continuity. He made 2 captures. He never made the third. He carried the weight of that incomplete number for the rest of his life, and he did not let it make him smaller. And he went back to the field, and the field is what killed him, in the end, not on the stone, but in the march back, which was perhaps the least ceremonial way to go, and perhaps for that reason the most human. You made 3. The avocado tree drops a leaf in the still air of the courtyard. It falls without sound and settles against the base of the wall. Tomorrow you will begin to find out what 3 means in daily life, in the way the city looks at you, in the territory of rights and obligations that opens when the rank changes. You do not know the full shape of it yet. You know the outline. The Kamekat training will fill in what the outline contains. The land allocation will change what is possible for your mother and for you. The suit will change how you move through the public spaces of the city, will change what people expect when they see you coming. These are not small things, but they are also not the thing itself. The thing itself is this: you went to the field. The field asked what you had. You gave it what you had. And it was enough. The drums do not stop. This is the thing you carry into sleep, not the silence after ceremony, not the pause between one thing and the next, but the continuous sound of an obligation being met in real time, drum stroke by drum stroke, through the dark hours of a city that has chosen not to stop acknowledging what it owes. You have heard these drums your entire life. They are the background against which you learned to walk and learned to fight and learned to read the weight shifting in a man's body before he commits it. They were there the night your father did not come home. They were there the morning you made your first capture. They are here now. They will be here when the spotted skin is placed over your shoulders. They will be here in 40 years, if you live that long and are sitting in this same courtyard watching a firelit sky above a roofline. The debt does not end. The payment continues. The drums confirm it, night after night. And you sleep inside that confirmation, the way you sleep inside the city, held by it, part of it, inseparable from it in every way that matters. Your eyes close. The fire above the roofline burns on. You breathe. You wake in the dark. Not from the drums. The drums are always there. They do not wake you. From something quieter, the particular quality of air before dawn, the way it carries a temperature that is different from midnight, thinner and more precise, the temperature that means the sun is preparing something on the other side of the horizon, even though you cannot feel it yet. You sit up on the sleeping mat. You press your palms against the cool stone floor. The left shoulder is stiff from the night's stillness, but intact. The deep ache of the old wound and the newer strain sitting together in the same place. The way old injuries and new ones share the same geography and become over time indistinguishable from each other. The right knee has swollen slightly overnight. Not seriously, manageable. You feel the cheekbone, tender and warm. the swelling from his elbow settled into the bone. You feel 3 captures. The formal confirmation ceremony will happen within the next 2 weeks. The priests and calendar keepers will designate the day, the auspicious intersection in the tonal calendar, where the elevation of warriors is woven into the structure of what the sky requires. You do not know which day. You will be told. Until then, your body has given what it came to give, and now it needs what everybody needs after expenditure: food, stillness, time. Your mother is already in the kitchen. You can hear it, the sound of the fire being coaxed from last night's banked coals, the ceramic pot being set on the trivet, the quiet efficiency of someone who has been beginning days before dawn for 30 years. You rise, you go to the water jar and drink. You stand in the doorway to the kitchen and watch your mother work in the firelight. She does not need you to speak. She knows you are there. She continues what she is doing, adding dried chili to the pot, adjusting the fire, wiping her hands on the cloth at her belt, and does not look up. And this is its own kind of conversation, the kind that does not require words, because the words are all there already, have been there since you came through the door and said 3, and she changed her grinding rhythm for half a breath. You go back to the courtyard and begin the preparation that you have been doing every morning for 9 years, the light stretching sequence that the Telpakali instructors taught you to use before any training or physical demand. Shoulders, hips, the rotation of the knee that keeps the joint from seizing. You do each of these slowly, with the attention they require, not rushing toward the day, but arriving in the body that is going to carry you through it. The drums change. The pre-dawn acceleration, the register shift. It lasts perhaps 30 seconds before resolving into the full morning pattern, faster and more complex than the night rhythm, building toward the moment when the sun clears the eastern ridge and the sound from the temple platform rises to meet it. The city wakes. You can hear it happening around you. The sounds of people moving from sleep into the first actions of the day, the layered texture of a population beginning, canal boats on the water, the market bell from the direction of Tlatelolco, rung at first light to signal the opening of the trading day. Dogs, children, the collective noise of a city that never stops being a city, even when it sleeps. You eat what your mother sets in front of you: maize, beans, dried chili, the same food you have been eating your entire life, grown in the Chinampas south of the island, prepared in this kitchen, served in this courtyard. You eat it with attention. You are done quickly. Then you go to the Templo Mayor. Not alone. Chimali has summoned the campaign's warriors, those who have captures from this engagement, to attend the morning portion of the dedication ceremonies as a group. It is not required. It is offered. You understood immediately that you would attend. The question did not arise. The streets between the warrior district and the central plaza are already dense with people. The Templo Mayor dedication has been running for 4 days and will continue for 2 more, and each day draws more of the city's population to the central precinct, some from obligation, some from proximity, some from the pull toward the largest event happening near them. The crowd is not festive in the way a market is festive. It has a focused quality, a directed attention. You move through it, and it parts around you the way crowds part around men in armor. Not deference exactly, but the unconscious reorganization of bodies around something that reads as purposeful. The central precinct opens in front of you. You have been here many times. The Templo Mayor is not a building you can become fully accustomed to. At 60 meters of height, it dominates everything around it. The twin shrines at the summit, the broad ceremonial staircase rising from the plaza floor, the subsidiary temples and administrative buildings clustered around its base, the skull rack to the north where the heads of sacrifice victims are displayed on wooden poles in rows that have been accumulating for the duration of the dedication. You find Chamali at the eastern edge of the precinct. Tayokani is there, 5 other men from your campaign cohort. You stand together at the edge of the plaza and watch the morning ceremonies unfold on the platform above. From the ground, the figures on the temple platform are small, the priests in their black robes, the garments of the different priestly orders, the arrangements of objects on the sacrificial stone that you can see the shape of but not the detail. The sound carries better than the visual. The chants, the cadences of the ceremonial Nahuatl that the priests use, older than spoken Nahuatl, more formal, carrying a density of accumulated usage that you feel in your chest rather than parse with your mind. The copal smoke is heavy today. It moves off the platform in visible columns and spreads across the plaza, and in the smoke, the smell of what else is burning reaches you. Not as something shocking, not as something terrible, but as the smell of the ceremony itself, the smell of the thing being done, as fundamental to this place and this morning as the lake smell, or the maize cooking smell, or any other smell that constitutes the sensory texture of Tenochtitlan. You stand with your unit and watch. The morning session runs for 2 hours. The sun climbs. The smoke thickens and then disperses as the wind shifts and then thickens again. The chanting is continuous, rising and falling. Different voices taking the lead at different points. The whole thing held together by the drum patterns that you have been listening to for 4 days and that you will carry in your chest for the rest of your life. You watch, you listen, you breathe. The afternoon is your own. You go back through the market, not because you need anything, but because the market is the city's metabolism and you want to be inside it, want to feel the density of the place that is now unambiguously yours. In a way it was yours before, but differently. The Tlatelolco market is vast enough that a person could spend a full day in it and not see the same thing twice. You have heard men from outside the valley arrive at its edge and go quiet, the way people go quiet when a scale of something exceeds what they had prepared themselves for. You walk through the section where the feather workers display their trade, the Amanteca, specialists who work quetzal and catinca and macaw feathers into headdresses and cloaks, and the regalia of high status that no other craft can replicate. A full feather headdress can take months to produce. The finest pieces require feathers that arrive from the lowland Gulf Coast through the Paktika trade networks, sorted by color and curvature and size, and the work of assembling them is done in conditions of humidity and light that the Amanteca compounds are designed to maintain. You stop in front of a partially completed warrior crest, blue coating of feathers on a wooden armature, the work perhaps 2/3 done. The blue is the luminous blue that exists only in coating of feathers, a blue that has no vegetable or mineral equivalent, a blue that you can only get by using the feather itself. The Jaguar suit will not have feathers like this. Jaguar rank is about the skin, not the feathers. But you look at the Cotinca blue and you think about what the full regalia of the highest warrior ranks looks like. The Eagle Warriors with their feather crests, the Coachique with their insignia, the generals and high officers whose tlahuistli represent the full range of the feather worker's art. And you understand something about this city that you understood before but differently. Tenochtitlan is not powerful despite being beautiful. It is powerful partly because of it. The visual language of rank and ceremony and status, the feathers, the pigments, the architectural scale of the Templo Mayor, the precision of the calendar, these are not decoration on top of the power structure. They are the power structure made visible, made into something that can be seen and understood without words. You buy 2 tamales from a woman at the market's food section and eat them standing, watching the feather workers display. The afternoon light moves. You think about the Kalmakak training that begins after the ceremony. The Kalmakak is the school of the elite, where the priests are trained, where the high Pipiltines send their children, where the most advanced knowledge of the calendar and the astronomical systems and the long-form history of the Triple Alliance is transmitted. You will not be going as a full student. You are 24 and past the age for complete Kalmakak formation. But newly elevated Jaguar Warriors enter a training track within the Kalmakak curriculum. Advanced military strategy, the principles of campaign planning and logistics, the history of the Flower War system, and the diplomatic relationships that sustain it. You will learn to read the bark paper books. This is the fact that carries the most weight when you turn it over. Access to the written record, to the accumulated knowledge that the Kalmakak preserves and transmits, has been outside your reach until now. The Telpukali trained your body and your fighting mind. The Kalmakak will train something else, something you do not have words for yet because you have not learned what you did not know you were missing. This is what 3 captures buys, not just the suit, not just the rank. The door into the knowledge. The market begins to thin as the afternoon ages. Vendors begin the slow process of packing, folding cloth, covering ceramic displays, loading unsold goods back into the baskets, and carrying frames. The noise drops in stages, each stage of packing removing a layer of sound until by the time the sun hits the western ridge, the market is quiet enough that you can hear individual conversations from 20 meters away. You turn and walk back toward the warrior district. The streets near home are familiar in the way that very few things are familiar, with the depth of familiarity that only comes from having been in a place your entire life, from having the shape of every corner and the feel of every surface change with your age, so that the street you walk on now is the same street you learned to walk on, and the same street you ran through at 15, going to your first Telpukali session, and the same street that has carried you out on campaign and received you back. It receives you now. Your mother has lit the evening fire in the courtyard. The smoke rises in the still air in a column so straight it looks constructed. The avocado tree holds its shadow against the wall. The water jar is full. You sit by the fire. The Templo Mayor drums continue over the roofline. They will continue through the night. They will continue tomorrow and the day after. Within the next 2 weeks, on the designated morning, you will stand in the Telpukali courtyard, and the ceremony will happen. But that morning is not yet. Tonight is this courtyard, this fire, this city of drums and smoke. Tonight is the avocado tree your father planted. Tonight is the smell of your mother's cooking, and the smooth stone floor, and the cold beginning to arrive from the north as the fire burns. You put a hand on the courtyard wall. The stone is warm from the day's sun, holding the heat the way stone always holds it. longer than the air, long after the source is gone, as if reluctant to release what it spent all day accumulating. You feel it in your palm. The drums hold. You breathe. The fire dims in the courtyard, and your mother banks it from inside the kitchen. The scrape of the ash tool against the hearthstone, the familiar sound of a practiced hand covering the coals for the night. And the courtyard gets darker, and the drums from the Templo Mayor continue, and you stay where you are on the stone bench with your back against the wall, and the cold arriving in stages from the north. You are thinking about your father, not about the wound that took him or the march that did not bring him back, about what he would have said standing in this courtyard in the days before a ceremony like this one. He was not a man who gave many words to things. He gave actions, he gave presence, he gave the specific quality of attention that you have inherited from him. The ability to be completely inside a moment rather than inside a description of it. What you are about to receive is what he could not have. This is not a thought you carry with grief exactly. It is a thought you carry with the awareness of what chains of consequence produce. How the things one generation cannot reach sometimes become reachable in the next. Not because the next generation is better, but because the earlier one built the ground. Your father carried his 2 captures through a war that did not give him a third one. You carried 3 captures to a ceremony that will open a door he never stood in front of. These are not separate facts. They are the same fact, extended across time. He planted the avocado tree when he was 22. He pressed the seed into the thin island soil with 2 fingers and told you years later that he had not expected it to take. The roots of a tree planted this way have to find their path down through fill rock and rubble to reach the lake water below. Most fail. This one did not. You look at it now in the dark. The tree that outlived him, that is still growing, that drops its leaves in the dry season and puts out new ones in the rains, indifferent to everything except the water below and the light above, and the slow business of being what it is. He made something that continued. So did you. The fire is completely banked. The courtyard is dark, except for the orange smear of temple light above the roofline. The dedication fire burning through the night on its platform 60 meters above the plaza, visible from every rooftop in the city. In a few days, the dedication ceremonies will be complete. The smoke will gradually clear from the valley air. It will take time, the way weather takes time to fully change. The old condition persisting in pockets and layers while the new one establishes itself. The skull rack in the central precinct will be added to the existing structure. The heads of the dedication's sacrificed warriors arrayed alongside those of previous ceremonies in the accumulating record of the city's debt payments. And the heron feather man will be among them. You have not been back to the holding compound since the night you gave him water. You have thought about going. You have decided each time that what you brought him has already been brought, that the thing between you was completed on the field when you set the fallen feathers in front of him, and he looked at them and nodded, and that returning would be seeking something for yourself rather than bringing something for him. He does not need you to return. He has the priests. He has the ceremony. He has the cosmological structure that makes what is coming something other than simply ending. He is going to the house of the sun. You believe this. It is what you have always believed. Tonight, the belief does not sit lighter or heavier than usual. It sits where it always sits, in the place where the ground is, the place beneath the things that change. The drums continue. You reach out and press your palm flat against the courtyard wall again. The stone has cooled now, the day's warmth almost fully released into the night air. But at the center of the wall, where the stone is thicker, where the mass of it holds what the surface has already given away, a trace of warmth remains. You feel it. Tomorrow will be a day of rest. The body needs it. The knee needs stillness. The shoulder needs to be left alone. The cheekbone needs whatever time cheekbones need. You have learned over 5 years of campaign work that the body does its repair in the quiet, that pushing through the quiet is what turns a temporary injury into a permanent one. So you will rest. You will walk to the canal in the morning and carry water back and eat what your mother makes and sit in this courtyard and let the city be what it is around you without asking your body to be anything other than what it currently is, a body that has done its work and now needs what all bodies need after expenditure. The day after that, the notification will come, a message from the Telpakali compound, carried by a junior officer, telling you the date and the time. The calendar keepers will have found it by then, the day that the sky requires. The intersection of the tonal cycle and the solar cycle that makes the elevation auspicious. You will read the message and you will know when. The drums do not slow. They pulse on through the night air, through the still avocado leaves, through the walls of the courtyard that your father built and that you have inherited along with everything else he left. You close your eyes. You breathe. You let sleep come the way sleep always comes when the body has finished arguing, not all at once, but in stages, the way the city itself settles, the outermost layer first, then the next, until what is left is only the core of it, the warmth at the center that no amount of night can fully reach. The drums, the dark, the warmth in the stone. You sleep. The morning of the ceremony arrives the way all important mornings arrive, quietly, without announcement, the same color as any other dawn, until you are standing in it and the weight of the day settles onto the ordinary light and makes it something else. The drums have already changed by the time you open your eyes. The pre-dawn acceleration, the register shift that has been your signal for as long as you have been in this city. You did not need it this morning. You were awake before it came. The left shoulder is better than yesterday. The stiffness has moved from the deep center of the old wound out toward the surface, which is how healing progresses in your experience. Depth to surface, intensity to breadth, the kind of improvement you can only read from the inside. The knee has followed the same track. The cheekbone is a solid pressure but no longer warm. You are, for the purposes of this morning, functional. You oil your skin by firelight. Your mother does not speak, and you do not speak. She has laid out the ikahuipili and the other pieces of your equipment on the low bench along the courtyard wall, arranged with a precision that she has applied to every piece of equipment you have ever carried out of this house. Not the precision of someone who understands military equipment, but the precision of someone who understands that the arrangement of a thing before a significant moment is its own kind of care. You dress slowly, each piece in the correct order, the way you were taught. The ikuipili goes on last. When its weight settles onto your shoulders, you feel the day shift from preparation to event. Your mother comes to you in the courtyard. She places both palms on either side of your face and looks at you. The cheekbone is visible now, the bruising having surfaced and spread into the yellow-green of a wound past its worst. She presses nothing. She holds your face and looks. Then she releases you. She goes back inside. You walk out into the city. The streets are already filling. The Telpakali ceremony is a district event, not a citywide spectacle, nothing on the scale of the temple dedication ceremonies that have been running this week, but significant enough that the warrior district's population knows the morning's schedule and has arranged itself accordingly. People are moving in the same direction you are moving. Older men in their retired warrior dress, women with children, men your age from other units, some of whom you recognize, some you know well, some you know only by the marks on their campaign records. The Telpakala courtyard has been arranged. This is the first thing you see when you arrive, the transformation of the ordinary training space into the formal configuration of a recognition ceremony. The officers of the district in their ranked positions along the north wall, the Kalmukek representatives standing slightly apart, identifiable by the black robes and the white marking at the throat that designates the ranking priests of the warrior education track. The space in the center of the courtyard where the candidates will stand, demarcated with chalk lines on the stone floor and bordered by 2 rows of the district's senior warriors in full regalia. You find your position among the other candidates. There are 6 of you this ceremony, 6 men achieving a rank elevation this month, ranging from your elevation to Jaguar Warrior through 2 others also reaching Jaguar to 2 men reaching the Kwakli rank above it, and 1 man being formally recognized as a Kwakik, the highest warrior designation, the shorn ones who do not retreat. The Kwachikwa candidate is a man you have known by sight for 3 years. Older, mid-30s, built like the kind of structure that does not move when something hits it. He stands in the candidate line with his hands at his sides and his face arranged in the blankness of someone who has been living with the knowledge of this moment for long enough that the external expression has been fully separated from the internal one. You understand this. You have been carrying the same separation for days. The lead officer, a man named Coyotl, district commander, 11 confirmed captures and 20 years of active service, begins the ceremony with the formal recitation. The language is Old Nahuatl, the same register as the temple chanting, and the words sit in the air of the courtyard with a weight that ordinary speech does not have. The sun is fully up now. The courtyard is bright. The drums from the Templo Mayor continue over the rooflines. They have been continuous all week, and they will be continuous today, and they are part of the ceremony the same way the light is part of it, not separate from what is happening, but the surrounding condition within which it happens. Your name is called. You step forward. The Tlahuizli is brought forward by 2 junior officers, held between them on a stretched piece of cloth so that the full suit is visible without being compressed. You have seen Jaguar suits your entire life. You have watched them move in battle, have read the rank signal of them from a distance, have known what they mean in the grammar of warrior status since you were old enough to understand the grammar. You have not been this close to one. The skin is real. Of course it is real. You know this, have always known this, but the reality of it at close range is different from the knowledge of it. The weight of the hide, the coloration of the jaguar's coat which does not reproduce in any other material or pigment, the spots which are not spots but rosettes, clusters of smaller marks around a central dark point, each one slightly different from the next because they are the product of a living animal rather than a pattern applied by hand. The hide has been tanned and treated to flexibility and fitted to a warrior's dimensions, and where it has been worked around the collar and the cuffs there is fine stitching visible, the marks of the craftsman who made it into something a man can wear into a field. Coyotl takes the suit from the junior officers. He speaks your name again, formally, with the three-part designation that includes your lineage name and your district designation alongside the personal name your father gave you. Itztli of the Warrior District of the South. 3 confirmed captures. Elevated to the rank of Jaguar Warrior by order of the Telpakali of this district in the month of Okpanisli in the 3rd year of Ahuitzotl's reign. He places the suit over your shoulders. The weight of it lands. It is heavier than the Ikehupili, not dramatically heavier, but present in a way that is immediately different. The hide has a density that cotton does not have, a solidity, the weight of something that was alive and is now transformed into something else. It sits on your shoulders, and you feel the shoulders receiving it, and you stand as still as you can and let the weight settle. Coyotl steps back. One of the Kalmaka priests steps forward and speaks over you. The blessing that formalizes the elevation, the words that enter you into the warrior register of the next tier. You do not repeat them. You receive them the way you received the weight of the suit, by holding still and letting the thing land. The priest steps back. The senior warriors on either side of the candidate line strike their weapons against their shields. The sound is flat and loud in the enclosed courtyard space, bouncing off the adobe walls and coming back doubled, the percussion of formal recognition that you have watched from outside this circle many times. You are inside it now. You receive it. The ceremony continues for the other 5 candidates. You stand in the jaguar suit with the other newly elevated warriors and watch your peers receive their own elevations. The Kwachikwe ceremony is last. When the district commander finishes the formal words over the shorn warrior candidate, the sound from the senior warrior's shields is longer and louder. 3 strikes instead of 1. A longer interval between each, the percussion of the highest recognition the district can offer. The ceremony is complete. People move. The formal configuration of the courtyard dissolves into the less formal configuration of aftermath. Officers speaking with candidates, Kalmekak representatives identifying the newly elevated for the training schedules, senior warriors from the crowd offering the touch on the right shoulder that constitutes congratulation in this community. Jamali finds you before you have moved from your spot. He looks at you in the suit. He takes the full measure of what he is looking at, not quickly, not as a formality, but with the attention of a man who has been watching you build toward this for long enough that the arrival of it requires its own moment. Your father would have seen this, he says. Not would have wanted to see it, would have seen it. The difference is specific, not a wish about the past, but a statement about the present, about what this moment contains, about what is here even in the absence of the person who would have most wanted to be here for it. You nod once. You cannot speak. This is acceptable. Shimali understands. He moves away. Teokani arrives next. He stands in front of you and looks at the suit with the expression of a man examining something. that he expects to be wearing himself before long. The 4 capture mark is still his. He has been waiting for his own ceremony for 6 years. Something in his posture today is different from yesterday, a loosening, as if watching your elevation has updated something inside him about the proximity of his own. He says nothing. He puts one hand briefly on your forearm, the same grip that men in this community use when the formal vocabulary is insufficient. Then he releases it and steps back. The crowd in the courtyard thins gradually. The formal part of the morning is over. What remains is the day. You walk home in the Jaguar suit. The streets receive you. People you have known your whole life see you in the spotted skin, and something shifts in their face, a recognition, a recalibration of the version of you they carry. Children stare. You do not mind. You were one of those children once, staring at a Jaguar Warrior moving through these streets, reading the suit as a signal from a world you did not yet know how to enter. You entered it. You passed the canal where you used to fish as a boy, where your father once stood beside you for an entire afternoon without catching anything, and seemed entirely content. You passed the compound wall where you used to sit after Telpakali training, too tired to go the last block home. You passed the woman who has sold herbs from the same corner for as long as you can remember, and she looks up and sees you and puts her hand over her mouth. You keep walking. Your mother is in the courtyard when you come through the door. She sees you in the suit, and she goes still, not dramatically. The stillness of someone receiving information that reorganizes something internal. You stand in the courtyard in the jaguar skin and let her look at you. She crosses to you and straightens the collar of the suit at your right shoulder. A small adjustment, a half-inch of realignment that makes no practical difference to anything. She makes it with the concentration of someone doing the most important work available to her in this moment. Then she steps back and looks again. "Good," she says. Just that, one word. The single word that contains your father and the house and the years and the road and the 3 captures and everything that the 3 captures cost and everything they open, all of it compressed into the smallest possible package that can still hold all of it. Good. You sit in the courtyard, and the afternoon moves through its stages, and the city breathes around you, and the temple drums maintain their rhythm, and the smoke from days of ceremony sits in a permanent layer above the roofline, visible in every direction, the sign of the city paying its debt to the sky. You think about the heron feather man. The dedication ceremonies have days remaining. The priests and calendar keepers have been managing the sequence of sacrifices according to ritual requirements. Which deity, which calendar position, which type of warrior death serves which purpose in the cosmological accounting. Your 3 prisoners are part of the sequence. The heron feather man, with his 7 captures and his quiet settlement, is somewhere in the structure of what the remaining days require. You do not know the timing. You were not told and did not ask. What you know is that the mechanism is complete, your part of it done, his part of it approaching, the debt advancing by the amount that this campaign's captures represent. You picked up his feathers. You gave him water. You held the space still in the moment of binding. These things do not undo anything. They are not meant to undo anything. They are the human texture of the mechanism. the small acknowledgments that exist alongside the structural requirements, because the people inside the system are people, carrying all the weight of being people, even when they are also pieces of something larger than any of them. The sun drops. The fire in your mother's kitchen sends its smoke into the same sky as the temple fire. The temple fire is larger and older, and the smoke it sends up is different in composition. But they rise into the same air, and they move together on the same wind, and at some altitude they are indistinguishable from each other. You watch the smoke. The city begins its evening transition, the market closing, the canals slowing, the quality of noise changing from the high activity density of midday to the lower, more personal sounds of evening. Families, fires, the conversations that happen in courtyards when the day's public obligations are complete. Your mother brings food and sets it beside you on the bench and goes back to the kitchen. You eat. The food is the same food as every other evening. The courtyard is the same courtyard as every other evening. And you are inside all of it differently than you were before the campaign, differently than you have ever been inside it. The weight of the spotted skin on the bench beside you where you set it when you sat down, the hide still holding the warmth of the afternoon sun it absorbed while you wore it through the streets. You reach out and put your hand on it. The texture of it is different from anything else in this courtyard, different from the adobe wall, different from the woven mat, different from the smooth stone floor. It is the texture of something that lived a long time in conditions very different from this courtyard, that moved through the lowland jungle following its own nature, that was taken and transformed and has arrived here as something the city could not have made from anything else. You press your palm flat against it. The temple drums continue over the roofline. The copal smoke moves through the courtyard on the evening air, faint but present, the smell of the city paying what it owes. You breathe it in. You have been inside this city your entire life, and you have never been fully inside it the way you are inside it tonight, because tonight you are inside it as someone the city recognizes in a new way. And that recognition changes the way the city's weight distributes itself when it rests on you. It rests differently, more completely, like a thing finding its correct position. The fire burns in the kitchen. The avocado tree holds its shadow against the wall. The water in the jar catches the firelight and holds a small orange point of it, steady, for as long as the fire holds steady. Your mother moves through the kitchen in the rhythm she has moved through it for 30 years. The sound of it is part of the sound of this house, part of the sound of this street, part of the sound of this district, part of the sound of this city. Venus rises above the eastern ridge. Tlahuis Kalpantecutli, the war star, Lord of the House of Dawn. It was below the horizon on the night you lay in camp and counted stars and noted its absence. It is here now, steady and cold and far away, watching the city the way the city watches it, with the attentiveness of things that have been in relationship for a long time and have learned what to expect from each other. You watch it for a while. The drums settle into their night rhythm, the slower, lower pulse that will carry through until the pre-dawn acceleration that will wake you. The city settles with it, the evening sounds declining in stages, the sequence by which people move from the activity of day through the transition of evening into the collective breathing of a city at rest. You let the sequence move through you. Your hand is still on the jaguar skin. The cold arrives from the north as it always does at this hour, not dramatically, but as a presence, a quality of air that touches your face and hands first and then works inward. You do not move against it. You sit in the dark courtyard of the house where you were born, in the city where you have lived your entire life, with the skin of an animal that lived in the jungle 200 miles from here, warm under your palm, and the war star bright above the eastern ridge, and your mother's fire casting its light through the kitchen door in a shape that changes as the flames shift. 3. The number has settled now into something quieter than it was in the first hours after the field. Not smaller, quieter. The way a stone dropped in water settles, not disappearing, but finding its depth, becoming part of the structure of the bottom rather than an event in the surface. You are a Jaguar Warrior. Tomorrow the Kalmakuk training begins. Tomorrow the books open and the new knowledge begins its work of rearranging what you understand about the world you are inside. Tomorrow the city will ask you to be what you have become, and you will begin the long work of discovering what that means. But tonight is this courtyard. Tonight is this fire and this cold and this skin and this city breathing around you in the dark. Tonight is enough. More than enough. The drums hold their rhythm. The war star holds its position. Your breathing slows. The cold settles in the stone around you, and the fire in the kitchen dims as your mother banks it for the night, pulling the ash forward over the coals the way fires are banked everywhere, the way fires have been banked since before this city existed, the slow, careful covering of a heat that will be there in the morning because someone thought to preserve it. The ember beneath the ash, the sun below the horizon, the debt that continues. The drum, the dark, the breathing city, the jaguar skin, warm under your hand, holding the day's sun long after the sun is gone. You close your eyes. If this story found you tonight, if this is the kind of history you return to when the day is done, a subscribe to Quiet History at Bedtime means everything right now. And if you leave a like before you drift off, it helps more than you know. Sleep well. Good night.